Hello, everybody, and welcome to What the Hell Should I Watch? I'm Steve Stebbing, and this is the weekly rundown of what I'm watching, which may become something you're watching. And I come at you every Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific time on stevestebbing.ca. And, last week I had a Christmas ruiner kick off the episode, so I promise I have something way better than that this week. I also say goodbye to a really great show and wonder how we're going to get back into the franchise in which it's embedded in, and a whole lot more. But let's get to the good stuff first. Fresh for your eyeballs this week, and thanks to a very good friend, I was afforded the opportunity to see an early look at a film that doesn't come out till Christmas Day. It's the new Robert Eggers film, and I've been looking forward to it all year. This is Nosferatu, a gothic tale of obsession between a haunted young woman and the terrifying vampire infatuated with her, causing untold horror in its wake. Starring Bill Skarsgård, Nicholas Hoult, Lily Rose Depp, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Emma Corrin, and Willem Dafoe. Written and directed by Robert Eggers. And this movie, the anticipation for this film is definitely at an all-time high, just because the track record that Robert Eggers already has, given The Witch, The Lighthouse, The Northman, and now this film. So I feel like it satisfied what I wanted from it. It immerses you in the atmosphere, in that dread and insidious atmosphere very quickly. Lily Rose Depp and Nicholas Hoult play very to the type. They play it. I feel that the influence of both the original film, but largely Werner Herzog's version of it, with some of the just the grain of the film and how it operates in that sense. But at the same time, Eggers kind of makes it his own. And I would say it's definitely a star vehicle for Lily Rose Depp. I think she's really, really great in this film. I really enjoy Nicholas Hoult as well, and Aaron Taylor Johnson. And obviously, Willem Dafoe chews every single piece of scenery that he has. His intro into the movie is just simply brilliant, as well as one of the last shots of him, which is just fantastic. Bill Skarsgård is completely unrecognizable, and I do like that they got a bit away from the Max Schreck look of Orloff, and of it's not even a Kinski look to him. It's something that's very rooted in exactly Robert Eggers' own vision of this character, but still completely unrecognizable, and yet another one of these characters for Bill Skarsgård, like a iconic horror character. So that guy's like amassing him like the Thanos Infinity Gauntlet right now at this point. But I obviously really, really, really love this film. The score is incredible. The cinematography is amazing, and I'm a little bummed that I didn't watch it on the big screen. I think hopefully if we get it here in my town, that I will check it out. But I really liked it. It kind of satiated what I was looking for, and it really kind of messes around with my top 10 now. Like, I got to figure where this one lands. So we'll see where it goes. All right, let's move on to Ralph Fiennes just getting absolutely superhero ripped for a movie, as my friend Melissa has said. And was it worth it? This is The Return. After 20 years, Odysseus finally returns to Ithaca, where he finds his wife held prisoner by suitors vying to be the king, and his son facing death at their hands. To win back his family and all he has lost, Odysseus must recover his strength. Starring Ralph Fiennes, Juliette Binoche, and Charlie Plummer. written and directed by Uberto Pasolini. So, I mean, I'm a big fan of Greek mythology and Homer and the Iliad and all that kind of stuff. Since I was since junior high, I did a like a book report on on Greek mythology, and I just kind of like became really into it. And so to see this film come up was fascinating because also Ray Fiennes having a very strong year with Conclave, which he's most likely going to get an Academy Award nomination for. I believe he's gotten a Golden Globe nomination for it already. So he's just knocking down the dominoes at this point. But it's a strong Ray Fiennes year, as most years where he makes movies are. And Juliette Binoche. So this is a reunion for the English Patient. But I really enjoyed the third act of this film. I really felt like they were just kind of padding time and kind of stymieing things until this big kind of violent third act happens. And it's a really great scene. And Ray Fiennes is, again, chewing scenery the whole time. Juliette Binoche doing the same thing. But it just feels so long and drawn out. And there's also some like I'm wondering if the director here, Pasolini, if this is a first English language film, because there seems to be some acting cues in this film that made me kind of like, well, that was weird. And it didn't have the sensibilities that I thought a film like this would have. I don't know. That doesn't make a lot of sense, but there's just some things that came across like kind of like overacted and a bit goofy. But it's not a bad movie. I think it's really well done just based on the story, because the story is very interesting. The Odysseus story is awesome in my opinion. Like the whole thing is very cool, and great acting. So if you're into that kind of stuff, and you have a little bit of patience, you might enjoy this film. All right, let's move on to something I'm gonna say is kind of dumb. But I just thought on the outside of it, I thought it would be something pretty cool. This is Werewolves. Two scientists try to stop a mutation that turns people into werewolves after being touched by a supermoon the year before. Starring Frank Grillo, Katrina Law, Ilfinesh Hadera, James Michael Cummings, Lou Diamond Phillips, and James Kyson. Directed by Stephen C. Miller. I kind of saw the buzz of this film coming through Twitter, because I believe I do follow Stephen C. Miller on Twitter, and I was seeing a lot of the creature effect stuff, the werewolf effect stuff, and that side of this movie I'm not going to sell short at all. It's really cool and really fun to see practical effects used more than CG, and I don't think there's any CG used in this movie at all. I think it's all practical. That being said, this movie felt like it was getting dumber and dumber as it progressed, and I know on the outside we already have to put the brain away because our characters turned into like a billion people turned into werewolves due to a supermoon the year before. So it's like already like a crazy story. And Frank Grillo as a scientist is kind of crazy in its own way, especially how ripped Frank Grillo is in this movie. There's a shot like at the end of the movie that's like the Hugh Jackman Wolverine, the third act scene in that movie, like where his uniform, where his costume blows off. Like it's like that. I was like, fucking Frank Grillo, holy shit. Because I think Frank Grillo is he's in his late 50s, I think. So the guy looks fucking amazing still. But I mean, I wish I could like Werewolves more. I wish I could get on board with the campy stupidity of it, but it felt like, I don't know, it felt like a movie from like 2006. And I just didn't have the love for it. I'm sorry to genre fans. I just didn't have it. Let's move on to the last one for this segment, and this one is already in the awards circuit, though I doubt it's going to be big enough to earn the Oscars, and it clearly hasn't for the Golden Globes. This is Ghostlight. When a construction worker unexpectedly joins a local theater's production of Romeo and Juliet, the drama on stage starts to mirror his own life. Starring Keith Kupferer, Dolly DeLeon, Catherine May Kupferer, Tara Mallon, Hannah Dworkin, Tommy Rivera Vega, Alma Washington, H.B. Ward, Dexter Zollicoffer, Leah Kubaletti, Deanna Dunnigan, and Frances Guinan. Written and directed by Kelly O'Sullivan and Alex Thompson. So Alex Thompson did a film a handful of years ago called St. Francis that I believe starred Kelly O'Sullivan, and I really, really liked that film. But then after the credits, co-host Bill sent me the screener for Ghostlight, and I had really no knowledge of this film, and I didn't even know Dolly DeLeon's in it. I really like Dolly DeLeon a lot. And so I jumped in this film blind, essentially, and Keith Kupferer's performance in this film as a grieving father who stumbles into a local theater production and like begrudgingly finds a bond there is such a touching story that just consistently and constantly opens itself up as the film progresses, and it's just so beautiful. And the climax crescendo of this film, and just how heavy it is, honestly just really, really, really got me, and it hit me right in the heart. And I this has become hyperbole at this point, I say it so much, but this is one of the best films of 2024, and I think a great drama that doesn't have enough eyes on it in the mainstream, that I think could do well if people just gave it a chance. And again, I always say it, have patience with it, and just let a simple indie piece of cinema wash over you, because it's just really, really a beautiful, beautiful film, and one of the memorable ones from this year for sure. All right, so for this next segment, I dug up some old purchases of older movies. Let's just get to it anyway. All right, yes, on the blue. These are movies are that I recently purchased that came out years and years ago. So yes, late reviews, but maybe give them a rewatch or watch for the first time if you haven't seen them. The first one by a controversial filmmaker, to say the least, is The Ghostwriter. A ghostwriter hired to complete the memoirs of a former British Prime Minister uncovers secrets that put his own life in jeopardy. Starring Ewan McGregor, Pierce Brosnan, Kim Cattrall, Olivia Williams, Tom Wilkinson, Timothy Hutton, John Barenthal, David Rintoul, Robert Pugh, and Eli Wallach. Written and directed by Roman Polanski, based on the book The Ghost by Robert Harris. So Polanski. I'm bringing a Polanski movie to the podcast, and it's not Rosemary's Baby, which is like that and Chinatown, I think, and maybe The Pianist are like the films that you could that you're like, well, it's pure cinema. I don't know, like, artists aside, these are just pure cinema. His other films, I don't know, like I find Polanski very compelling usually as a filmmaker. When I first watched, because The Ghostwriter, this is a second time watch for me. When I first watched this film, I wasn't hugely on it. But I saw a lot of praise for it afterwards, and in retrospect. So when I saw it really cheap online, I just figured it was an easy purchase. So I picked it up and gave it a rewatch. And Ewan McGregor is so great in this film. And he's also very unlikable. Just the way, just his attitude and stuff comes across as unlikable. And I find it interesting when you put a story of a real feeling, slightly cantankerous, not cantankerous, but edgy from his industry character. And there's a lot of great character work in this one. Kim Cattrall does some good stuff in this film. Pierce Brosnan channeling a good-looking Tony Blair, because I mean, essentially, this is a Tony Blair thing. Like that's kind of, I feel like that's what is at the heart of this film. But I really, really like the third act, and that tail out ending is fantastic. Just the way it's shot, the way it's executed. That party scene is just absolutely pristine and pulls the whole film together at the end. I think that and the bar scene. There's a really, really, really great bar scene conversation that I thought was really, really great. And yeah, I mean, Tom Wilkinson appearing in this film. I don't feel like I've seen him since he passed, watching something older. So, just reminded me how great he is. But yeah, Ghost Rider improved, in my opinion, from the first time I watched it. And another rewatch, and this one I definitely liked on the first time. It is the American adaptation of Stieg Larsson's The Millennium Trilogy. This is The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Journalist Michael Blomquist is aided in his search for a woman who has been missing for 40 years by hacker Lisbeth Salander. Starring Daniel Craig, Rooney Mara, Christopher Plummer, Stellan Skarsgård, Steven Berkoff, Robin Wright, Yorick Van Wagenen, and Jolie Richardson. Directed by David Fincher. So yeah, this is one of the biggest cinema robberies, I think, of the post 2000s cinema world. And I said cinema way too many times there. That David Fincher wasn't able to continue making these Elizabeth Salander movies. Because I really, really love this film. The pulse of Fincher, Cronenweth, and Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross just makes this movie slither along at such a great pace. The editing is so phenomenal in this film, and Daniel Craig and Rooney Mara have such great chemistry together. And I mean, there's scenes in this movie. I mean, because I know it's already been done, and arguably in places done that. Okay, stay stuff controversy here. That's why I'm stuttering here. Noomi Rapace is the better Elizabeth Salander. I totally give that to her, and those movies might be just in their trilogy. Well, definitely in their trilogy, they're better than the Fincher film. But there's something about Fincher's version that I find so great. And I can even put aside that in Sweden everyone uses British accents. I can put aside that kind of shit. I just really, really like the way that this film is constructed, and the way it, and the cast alone is really, 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 really solid. And I mean, I'm speaking in hyperbole when it comes to this film, also because it's David Fincher, who is like our Marty Scorsese. Like, he is one of the defining filmmakers in my tenure of loving film. So I'll always have a biased love towards him. We'll see if that's tested, because I am planning on watching Curious Case of Benjamin Button again at some point. But Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is still almost, perfect movie. Like, it's so well put together. I might have a little bit of issue with some of Lisbeth's actions at the end of the film, but that's for a different day. All right, let's move on to a couple things that you can stream at home. on the streaming pile this week, and I'm going to be honest with you, it's all Apple TV Plus, but one of them features the return of one of the greatest comedic actors ever, but in a non-comedic role. This is Before. After tragically losing his wife to suicide, child psychiatrist Eli Adler encounters a troubled young boy who seems to have a haunting connection to Eli's past. Starring Billy Crystal, Jacoby Jupe, Maria Dizia, Ava Lazarezeta, Rosie Perez, and Judith Light. Created by Sarah Thorpe. Available on Apple TV Plus. Yeah, so Billy Crystal is in essentially like a kind of ghostly mystery horror that seems like it was the sort of shedding onto Apple TV Plus from a show like Servant. Like it's definitely trying to play on that mystery sandbox. Where is it going? I'm not sure. The slow dryness of this show mixed with odd jump scares makes it a little tough to figure out what the pacing of this show is. It is, but at the same time, it is really kind of refreshing to see Billy Crystal on screen. But on the same side of that sword, I wish he was funnier in this, which just sounds a little selfish, being that the character's wife committed suicide. So maybe he just wanted to do, Billy Crystal wanted to do something different. He's allowed to, but I figured maybe if he was coming back to television that he was going to do comedy, or coming back to anything, any project that he would do comedy. But yeah, I don't know. I just didn't get a lot off of the first episode. I think the ghostliness is there, the mystery behind who this kid is enough of an intrigue. Whether they can string it along, I believe it's only 8 episodes. That is another story. But Billy Crystal back on TV, and Judith Light's in this, and I really like Judith Light because I'm an old school Who's the Boss fan, so why not? All right, let's move on to some more darkness on that same streaming service. This is Bad Sisters. The Garvey sisters are bound together by their parents' deaths and a promise to always protect one another. Starring Sharon Horrigan, Anne-Marie Duff, Eva Berthistle, Sarah Green, Eve Hewson, Brian Gleason, Daryl McCormick, Assad Boab, Claes Bang, Owen McDonnell, Thadia Graham, Barry Ward, Sace Quinn, Michael Smiley, and Fiona Shaw. Created by Sharon Horrigan, Dave Finkel, and Brett Baer. Available on Apple TV+. Yes, concluding the Apple TV Plus doubleheader. There's actually 2 seasons of Bad Sisters out right now. Sharon Horrigan is the reason that I picked this one up for sure. I hadn't seen her until that film Game Night with Jason Bateman and Rachel McAdams. And I was like, she's really funny and got some really great comedic timing. And then she popped up in a few other things. So now when I see her, I make a note to check it out. And she's one of the creators on this one. But essentially, this is like a dark comedy drama mystery of a group of tightly bound sisters who come together to knock off the horrible husband of one of the sisters. And I played by Claes Bang, and he is so good at being such a piece of crap. And from the opening episode, it's like, yeah, that guy needs to go. Just horrible things coming out of this guy's mouth. But again, it feels like a show that was off of British television, maybe ITV, BBC, or Sky TV, that needed a home, and Apple TV was like, come here and join us here on this network of odd misfits. Because like that Idris Elba show Hijack and stuff, like it just feels like a mishmash of different shows. And I've said it many times before, Ted Lasso was supposed to be an NBC show, though I don't see how that works now with all the swearing and everything. how do you make Roy Kent's character work on NBC? That doesn't even make any sense. But I really like this show. The ensemble cast is really great. Anne-Marie Duff is always really, really great. I mean, I'm thinking back to Nowhere Man, the John Lennon biopic. She played Julia, John Lennon's mom, in that. And Eve Hewson is phenomenal in everything she does. She did that really cheesy, I think it was a John Carney film that was on Apple TV Plus as well. And I always space on it, and Chloe always drops it in now, but I'm editing the show, so I will be not dropping it in here. So you're just going to have to look up Eve Hewson's filmography and Apple TV Plus and do some cross-referencing. But it's a good movie. It's super cheesy. It's got Joseph Gordon-Levitt in it too, but it's great. But yeah, Bad Sisters, enjoyable so far. Looking forward to getting into the second season. All right, let's put to bed a couple of shows that I've finished. All right, now that it's over, the first one up is a homegrown Canadian one, and it's a spin-off that's still going now after the show. The mother show has since ended. This is Shoresy. Sees the foul-mouthed, chirp-serving, mother-loving, fan-favorite character Shoresy join a senior AAA hockey team in Sudbury on a quest to never lose again. Starring Jared Keeso, Tassia Teles, Harlan Blaine Kitayat, Blair Lamora, Kalani Elizabeth Rose, Ryan McDonnell, Camille Sullivan, Jonathan Ishmael Diaby, and Terry Ryan. Created by Jared Keeso. Available on Crave. Yeah, so what can I really say about Shoresy? But since this is like, spoilers and all, the end of this series says that this is the end of Shoresy, like book 1. This is the end of Shoresy's playing career, I think, because this season deals with injury, aging, and retirement, essentially. And Shoresy now moves into what I believe he's going to do is he's going to be a coach next season. So that's what this new part of the story is. I do like the swerve with saying it was the end, but just of this part, because they got me for a second. I really like this show a lot. It's definitely a lot different than Letterkenny. Lot more hockey culture and everything like that in there. I love the Jay Onrait cameos. I love this back and forth between Jared Keeso and Camille Sullivan, and I think it's really, really great. And the script, Jared Keeso's scripts are always just pop. Everything's just always flying in every scene. There's never a dull moment, and his soundtracks are always really, really good. And I always find myself looking up what songs he's playing in each episode and adding a lot into my Spotify. So excited about a new season of Shoresy whenever it drops, because they just seem to come out of nowhere. And looking forward to the beginning of a new chapter in this character's existence, this team's existence. It's very cool. I held on to this one for a long time. This was one of the big ones, a big one for me for sure. And one I was very excited to see. Now it's been over for a few weeks, so I can finally talk about the Penguin. Following the events of the Batman, Oz Cobb, aka the Penguin, makes a play to seize the reins of the crime world in Gotham. Starring Colin Farrell, Kristen Milioti, Renzi Feliz, Deidre O'Connell, Clancy Brown, Carmen Ejogo, Michael Zegan, Berto Colon, Scott Cohen, Shora Agadashlu, and Theo Rossi. Created by Lauren LaFranc. Available on Crave. There's actually a lot more on that cast list, but I didn't want to be sitting here for the next 5 minutes naming out cast members. But this show is deep with atmosphere, violent as all hell, lots of swearing, which leads me to the question, now that this is over and now that we fully established the Penguin, Oz, as just an absolute monster. Because spoilers, that final scene is so heavy and so heartbreaking. More heart, like people are comparing it to Tony Soprano and Christopher Moltisanti, and I disagree. I think there's more you see it coming. It is heartbreaking, but there's more you see it coming in with Tony and Chrissy than there is with Victor and Oz, and it's so horrifying. But it really puts the character where he needs to be. But the question is that the Batman was a PG-13 movie, and so is the Batman Part 2. So how does Oz go back to not swearing and going back to this world? Because it is assuming that Colin Farrell's the Penguin will be a part of Batman Part 2. But how do you defang him after this incredible cinematic 8 episodes? Honestly, if you haven't seen it yet, it's, whether you're a DC, Batman, or anything fan alone, if you just like good television, it is worth watching in every semblance. Like, you need to see it. It is must see television for 2024. Just so well constructed, the best performances I've seen of the year, and just really special stuff that you don't see all the time. So I don't know what the future is for this. He'll just show up in Batman Part 2, not swearing. I don't know, but I appreciate it. It's just a fantastic series, and I can't wait to own it on Blu-ray soon, hopefully. All right, let's move on to just a couple of reminders before we head out of here. Yes, this week's reminders. First one up is The Beast with Léa Seydoux and George McKay. I don't have the dates for when I reviewed these ones, both of these ones, but this one was a really messed up movie. Definitely a long one. You're going to need to have some patience with it, but deals with some really jarring aspects that I think are very close to our current existence. Two of them, just to give you a wet your whistle: AI and incels. So yeah. So those are at the heart of it. The other film this week that's out on DVD and Blu-ray is The Critic with Ian McKellen, a film that was definitely written for Ian McKellen with him in mind. There's a lot of great Ian McKellen, a lot of great of him, Sir Ianing. But at the end of it, it's just kind of dull. And even though it has got Gemma Arterton, it just didn't do it for me. I just had a big time problem with this film, and it was a little bit of a slog to get through. But I reviewed both of these films. The Beast I reviewed towards the beginning of this year, and The Critic was about 3 months ago. All right, so that brings us to the end here. But what am I going to talk about next week? Yes, I actually have a new film to talk about next week. Am I excited about it? I don't know, but I've seen it's kind of middling, but there's a lot of violence in this one, a lot of rated R violence, so that's kind of cool. And it's Marvel Sony, so that's maybe not cool. It is Kraven the Hunter with Aaron Taylor Johnson. 2 weeks in a row of Aaron Taylor Johnson, so that's kind of fun. But we'll see how I come out on the other side of this one. Like I said, I'm kind of feeling middle of the road on it. But that brings us to the end of this episode. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, Threads, and Blue Sky at The Stevel Dead. You can find Chloe on Letterboxd at HoneyBunChloe. And you can find all of these episodes on stevestebbing.ca and on my YouTube page at Steve Stebbing or at The Stevel Dead. We're also on shiftheads.ca. And you can hear me every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Shane Hewitt and the Night Shift, Toronto's News Talk 1010 on the iHeartRadio network. And that ends this week. I've emptied out my list. I got to fill it up again. So until then, bye-bye.